Peace. So on November 7th, the Manhattan Community Board number 10 held their general meeting, and one of the agenda items that was put forward by their Transportation, Historic Preservation, and Landmarks Committee was to vote on the changing of the name of an intersection, 126th Street and Adam Clayton Powell Jr., which is in Harlem, to Allah, Justice, and the 5%er Square. And with this, it would be designated now as a historic landmark, and it is right in proximity or on the corner where our law school or our national headquarters are as the 5%. So I wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about that and some of the political and social implications of this, as well as 5%ers, some of the things we need to be thinking about when it comes to having a historic landmark representing who we actually are. So this was voted on at this general meeting. It was approved by the Community Board number 10. And now the next step is to get it before City Council for a vote and an approval. And then from there, the signage will be created, and as well as a certain day being designated for a public unveiling of this landmark in our honor. Now, one of the things that a lot of people oftentimes think about is the pride that comes along with having a historic landmark in your particular name, because of what it does is it creates a sense of preservation when it comes to your culture and your heritage. With that, it also makes it a little bit more difficult to acquire property or a marker under the auspices of eminent domain. And that's important to keep in mind, because for many years, investors have strived to actually purchase the site where our school is, and that has been an ongoing discussion over the years. So it's important to understand that from a political perspective, when you have a community board that puts forward an agenda item like this that is supported by the community, in particular the Transportation, Historic Preservation, and Landmarks Committee, it gives you more political leverage when it comes to speaking for and in the interest of our culture and our heritage, because now it is a landmark. And when something is dedicated and designated as a landmark, it makes it that much more difficult to acquire it under the auspices of eminent domain. Now, at the same time, it's important to keep in mind that whenever you designate a property as something that is historic, what it does is it essentially raises the property value, and it stabilizes the property value of other various different entities around it. So what it's basically doing is it's demarcating or showing the value of not just simply this location, but also the community surrounding it. And there's a lot of people that's going to be looking at it in that regard. Another thing that's important to keep in mind is whenever you designate a property or a place as a historic landmark, it also opens up opportunities for cultural heritage tourism. And that's something also important to keep in mind, because some of the things that I've spoken about in the past is having interlopers or people who are outsiders, not 5%, who are oftentimes utilizing our property as a formal or informal stop along some cultural tourism or heritage that they're actually doing throughout Harlem. And these are people who are establishing these businesses, or they're in the process of earning a doctorate's degree, or they're doing other different things that are monetizing our culture or our heritage, where oftentimes you may not see us, who are the best knowers or the best equipped to give people tours of our important places that are designated as landmarks from our cultural perspective. So that's something that we have to keep in mind, that this is definitely going to create more opportunities for cultural heritage tourism. And that's something that we need to be considering in terms of this is a place that demarcates or that denotes or designates the importance of us within our community as the 5%. Another thing that's important to keep in mind is we have to be proactive in controlling our narrative. This is something that I speak about and I've consistently spoken about for over a decade and a half. Making sure that we are the voice of our worldview and not allowing anyone to have some authority to speak and tell our stories. We need to control our narrative. So these are some of the things that's important for us to keep in mind, in addition to just having a sense of civic pride or community pride simply because we have this particular intersection that is named in honor after the Father, justice, and us as a nation. We need to start considering the importance of controlling our narrative. We also have to keep in mind that now people who may have not even thought about or have known in a formal way who the 5% are, then now that is a marker that gives people a public perspective of who we actually are. So we need to put more thought into how we are actually representing ourselves in the public. This is something that I've been doing personally for some years. Other gods and earths or other 5%ers have also been doing it. But all of us need to start thinking about and considering that. Think about the possibility of a series that's coming in to that area and they want to shoot various different scenes of something that's going to go on television, and they're showing images of that particular intersection with our name on it, and then the next scene they're showing people that are doing drugs or people who are invested in crime or everything else. So when people see that signage and then they see these scenes, they may associate that with each other. How are we going to respond to that? Even though this marker is city property, our school is right in proximity and in location to where this historic landmark is going to be. So we have to start thinking about how can we utilize our leverage politically to control that narrative and to ensure that there is proper representation of not just simply that intersection, but what is in proximity to that intersection. So I will. This was inspiring, it was empowering, it was educational, and gave those of you a little bit of insight on some of the things that's going down right now in regards to the social and political implications of not just an intersection in Harlem being renamed the Law, Justice, and the 5%er Square, but anytime you see historic landmarks being named and put on the city or the state or the national registry, there are certain type of implications that go along with that. And one of the good things, like I mentioned, is it makes it much more difficult to acquire property in proximity or aligned with that historic landmark under the auspices of eminent domain. So just wanted to share. So peace.